ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। So welcome back to Wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. So we have been looking at various verses of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and specifically we are looking at how we can get some practical application which we can implement in our day-to-day life. So that is our focus. Of course, Bhagavad Gita can be looked at from a various different perspectives, but from our perspective, the best use is how I can utilize the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita in our day-to-day life. So this is what we are trying to do through Wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. And currently we are looking at chapter number 7, which is entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. So we have seen that from chapter 7 onwards, the focus is mainly on Bhakti Yoga. So throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Shri Krishna talk about Bhakti Yoga, but in between from this chapter 7 onwards, 7 to 12, in this 6 chapters, he actually emphasizes that even more. So in this particular chapter, till now we have covered up to 19th verse. So we are going to start from verse number 20th. But just a quick recap of what we covered in the last session that we did, and where we covered verses 13 to 19. So we saw in this last session that Lord Shri Krishna has already talked about his various different energies, and he is explaining that you can see me everywhere, and I am the essence of everything that you see around you, like taste of water, the light and heat of the sun and moon, all of that he has mentioned in the previous verses. So in the 13th verse that we saw, that even though he's present everywhere as an essence of everything, why do people can't see him properly? And why do they not realize his presence? So he explains in the 13th verse that because they are bewildered, they are bewildered. He says that mohitam abhijanati. So they have been covered. And we talked about this mohitam abhijanati. They are covered by the Maya potency. And we talked that mohitam abhijanati happens at the level of mind, intelligence, and ego, all levels. And we also saw that the avaranatmika shakti and prakshipatmika shakti. So avaranatmika means it it covers our true identity with that we are the spirit soul. And then prakshipatmika means it gives us a sense of false identity that we are this body. And that is how then we forget everything else. Then in the next verse, Krishna explains, which is a very famous verse, Daivi Hesha Gunamai. This verse is so famous that Srila Prabhupada has quoted like in various different places, either when he's giving lectures on his various different books, or he's having a personal conversation with someone, and whatever has been recorded till now, it is we can see that it is Srila Prabhupada quoted this verse 7.14, Daivi Hesha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratyaya verse more than 500 times. More than 500 times he has quoted this verse. It is such an important verse. So why it is important? Because it is giving us a simple formula to overcome Maya. First of all, this verse explains that Maya is very, very difficult to overcome because she is Devi. It is Krishna's energy. Mama Maya. Krishna says it is Mama Maya. So it is very difficult to overcome. But then second line explains, or second part of the verse explains that if we surrender unto the Supreme Lord, then it is very easy to cross beyond this material ocean. So easy if we surrender to Krishna, difficult if we do not surrender to Krishna. So then Krishna explains in the next two verses uh, four kinds of people who do not surrender and four kinds of people who surrender. So four kinds of people who are not surrendering, they are called Dushkritinas. And Krishna explained that there are these four types are, they are Mudha, they are foolish, they are Naradhama, they are lowest of mankind. Then there is Maya Apavrita Jnana, who are intelligent, but their intelligence is stolen by Maya. And then Asurim, who are atheist. So these are the four type of people who do not surrender. Then the next verse explains the four type of people who surrender to Krishna. So there Srila Prabhupada explains that Krishna has given these four types, and Prabhupada has given in the purport with various different explanations and examples and everything. So Artha, Artharthi, Jigyasu, and Jnani. Artha means who are distressed. Artharthi means who wants to actually have get some desires fulfilled from Krishna. Jigyasu means they are inquisitive, and then Jnani is who's seeking knowledge. So then Krishna explains that all these four people who are surrendering to me for whatever reason, whether they are surrendering for material reasons or not, they are magnanimous. They are very great. But out of these four, the fourth one, Jnani, who doesn't have any material desires, and he is the best. And that is the reason why he is the best. Because he is approaching Krishna without having any material desires. And we finished the last session with another famous verse, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavam Mam Prapadyante Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. This verse Srila Prabhupada has quoted more than 600 times in his conversations, books, and everywhere. So this is also a very, very important verse. So even this jnani, when it after many, many lifetimes, it is possible that he comes in contact with a devotee and then becomes a devotee, and then finally he reaches Krishna. So that is how it happens. So now we are going to verse number 20. So till now, Lord has explained about the people who do not surrender to Krishna and people who surrender to Krishna. Now, from 20 onwards, Lord Shri Krishna is going to talk about people who surrender but not to him. So, people who are surrendering to other than Krishna, and what happens to them, what is their result. So, all of that is explained in the next few verses. So, let us move on to verse number 20. कामस्तैस्तैर्हृतज्ञाना प्रपद्यन्ते तं तं नियमम् आस्थाय प्रकृत्या नियता स्वया. Who wants to read translation? Yes, Paminder Prabhuji. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desire surrender onto demigod and follow the particular rules and regulation of worship according to their own natures.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. So here, what is mentioned? Kamastaistai Ritadnyana. Ritadnyana means whose intelligence has been stolen. So you had intelligence, but it has got stolen. And such people, what do they do? And sorry, who has stolen that intelligence? The intelligence was stolen by material desires. So when we are having some desires, material desires, then we are not able to think properly. And then based on those material desires, because the intelligence is stolen by those, then instead of worshipping the Supreme Lord, what do? We worship the other devatas, demigods. And then what these people, Hrita Jnana people do? They follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own nature. So nature is involved. So depending on whether we are in goodness, passion, or ignorance, then depending on our modes, then we actually worship a particular type of devata, which is suitable to that mode. And then we try to actually get our desires fulfilled. So Krishna is twice in this chapter, like in this 20th verse, he's referring to this devata worshipper as Ritadnyana, which is whose intelligence is stolen. Then in 23rd verse, which we are going to see today as well, there he call these people who are worshipping devatas as Alpa Medasam. Medha means intelligent, Alpa means little intelligence. So those who have little intelligence. So either the intelligence is stolen or he's referring them as less intelligent. So this is the challenge that is mentioned. Like Krishna in 7th chapter as well as in the 9th chapter, he's mentioning like that. But then someone will ask, why Krishna is saying that they are less intelligent or their intelligence has been stolen when he himself has given this devata worship in Vedas. So Krishna is he is the fountainhead of all knowledge. So Vedas come from him. So if it was Alpamedasam or Ritadnyana, then why did he mention the Devata worship in the Vedas? So the reason is because there are multiple reasons. First of all, Krishna is actually giving various different processes which are suitable for different modes. So mode of passion, mode of ignorance, in that you want a particular kind of worship that they are inclined towards or they are attached to. So that is why they try to worship a particular devata. And what I was going to say. Yeah, so the question is why he has mentioned it. So the other thing is that Krishna is not having this mentality that my way or highway. So everyone has to actually worship only me. And if you're not worshiping me, then you are doomed. Krishna is giving everyone a chance. So depending on your mood, you choose a particular worship, and over a period of time, slowly, you will keep getting your desires fulfilled through the devatas. And after the desires are fulfilled, still you will realize that, hey, I'm actually getting all my desires fulfilled, but still I am actually stuck in this cycle of birth, old age, death, and disease. So why this is happening? Then the brahmanas who are helping these people for doing these various different yagyas or pujas, then they will ask these brahmanas that you are learned, you tell me why I am actually doing all these pujas, but still I'm suffering. What is the reason? What should I do to actually get rid of my sufferings? And then the brahmanas will tell that, okay, this is what you have to do. You have to worship the Supreme Lord, and then your desires uh, will be fulfilled, but at least you will be purified. And this is the reason why these kind of worships are given, that it is a starting point. It is not an end goal. That the Devata worship which are given in the Vedas, they are the starting point. They are not the end goal. I'll give you a different example. So suppose you have been given options that you are given like a small stone. Stone means like the stone on the street. And in comparison, the second option that you are given is like a same weight, but it is silver. So what will you choose? So a stone on the street or the same weight you are given some silver. What do you think, Paminder Prabhu? What do you want? The stone or the silver?
Only silver.
Yeah, silver, right? It is obvious. So it is but it is the silver is more valuable than the stone. Stone, you are just throwing away. The children may take it for playing for a while, but then they will throw it away. It has no value. But the silver has a lot of value. Now the other option is now you have silver, and then the same weight there is a diamond. Let's say the Kohinoor diamond is given in comparison, having the same weight, silver and Kohinoor. What would you choose now, Prabhu?
A diamond Prabhuji.
Yeah, diamond, right? The reason is because diamond is more valuable. Now, it doesn't mean that the silver is not valuable. It is valuable, but obviously the diamond is much more valuable. Now, if someone chooses the silver instead of the diamond, then of course it will be said that they are less intelligent. They are not understanding what is the use of what is more valuable. And this is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is not trying to give us anything uh, that is less valuable. It is trying to give us Ananya Bhakti. It is trying to tell us that Ananya Bhakti to Krishna is the highest. That is the jewel, that is the diamond that we have. And in front of that jewel of Bhakti to Krishna, of course, the Devata worship is less valuable. And Krishna explains why. In the next two verses, we will see Krishna explains why that is less valuable. But is that making sense? That instead of not doing any any pious activities or Krishna consciousness, which is like the stone, the Vedas encourage people to take up the process of Devata worship at least, in the guise of that, okay, you if you worship this devata, then you will get this. If you worship that devata, you will get that. So that it is like they are enticed by these desires, or if they are very distressed, then with some disease or whatever, then if you worship this other devata, then this problem will be solved. And that is how they are encouraged to do it. And that is how they actually, instead of the stone on the street, they have chosen the silver. And then slowly they can come to the diamond level. But of course, if someone is ready to take up the diamond, then they don't have to actually take this in between process of either selecting the silver, copper, silver, gold, or anything. They can directly take the diamond. And that is what Bhagavad Gita is trying to give it to us, directly giving us the diamond. And in the diamond as well, the best of the diamond, not the a bhakti which is mixed with other things. Krishna is recommending in Bhagavad Gita Ananya Bhakti. So, so this is, I just wanted to give you a context why it is mentioned as Rita Jnana, Alpamedisam. It is not to put down the devatas. So, of course, yeah, that is another thing that we should actually understand here. That when it is mentioned that Rita Jnana or Alpamedisam, um, it is not because, or it is not to disrespect the devatas. It is mentioned about the people who are choosing to worship the devatas. They are referred to here as Ritadnyana or Alpamedasam. They are not referred to as the two devatas. Devatas are the servants of the Supreme Lord. So, devatas, just like you are trying to worship the Supreme Lord, they are already worshiping the Supreme Lord. They are already the devotees of the Supreme Lord. And they think that, hey, why are you disturbing me? I am worshiping the Supreme Lord. And in this, in between, you are coming and saying that, give me this, give me that, give me that. So this is not good. So that is why then they immediately give it to you. Arey, don't disturb me. Chal, you take this. And then let me focus on my worship. So that is how they feel, the devatas feel when we disturb them with this desire or that desire. Is that making sense?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. So let us see some more things which are mentioned about the Devata worship in these next two, three verses. So in this 20th of verse, 20th verse, we saw that they are taking up because of their own nature, because of the influence of the lower modes. These people who are called foolish, they are taking up the Devata worship. So those who surrender to other devatas. So we see that it is mentioned that their intelligence has been stolen by material desires. Now let us look at the next verse, which gives you further explanation about these devata worshippers. 21. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhakta Shraddhaya chirtumichhati tasya tasya chalam shraddham tameva vidadhamyaham. Welcome back, Vidushi Mataji and Uma Mataji. Hare Krishna, good to see you. Please go ahead.
Translation: I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity.
Yeah, thank you. So here, actually, let's read the next one as well, and then we can do that discussion together. 22. Sataya Shraddhaya Yuktas Tasyaradhanamihate Labhate cha tatah kaman Mayaiva Vihitan Hitan. Yes, Surananda Prabhu.
Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. It's very interesting. These two verses are telling us. In verse number 21, it is mentioned that Lord Shri Krishna increases the faith in the devata. So the devatas do not even have the capability to increase the faith of their own devotees in themselves. It is Krishna who's sitting in their heart, is increasing the faith of the devotee in the devata. So it is mentioned that I'm in everyone's heart as a super soul. So the super soul, Krishna, who's sitting in everyone's heart. And as soon as one desires to worship some devata, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. So Krishna is sitting in the heart and he sees that, oh, this particular person is now wanting to worship a particular devata. So let me actually increase his faith or her faith into the devata so that they can at least devotedly worship him. And that way they can make some progress. So Krishna helps to increase the faith of a devotee in a devata. Then in this 22nd verse, what is mentioned? Endowed with such faith, like this faith is there now, and with devotion, this person is now worshipping the devata. He endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desire. So he has worshipped the devata and he has obtained some desire. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. That means the result is also given by Krishna, not by devata. So the faith, okay, first thing is the devatas are worshipping the Supreme Lord Krishna. Then this devotee is trying to worship the devata. So the faith in that devata is also increased by Krishna. After that, faith has increased. This person is devotedly worshipping the devata. Then he gets his desire fulfilled. Who's providing that benefit? Is Krishna is providing the benefit. So Krishna is actually making everything possible even for this demigod worshipper. It is not the devata who is doing it, it is the Supreme Lord who is doing it. But there is only one challenge that is there. The challenge is that the devotee is not worshipping Krishna directly. It is an indirect worship. And in the 9th chapter, when we go, Krishna refers to that as they worship me, but they are worshipping me avidhi purvakam. They are not worshipping properly. It is avidhi purvakam. And that is why the result is not the same. The same effort, if you put on to worshipping Devata, and the same effort if you put and worshipping the Supreme Lord, the result is completely different. It is possible that you may get the same material benefit from both, but one is temporary and the other one is eternal. And Krishna mentions that in the next verse. But this purport of 22nd verse is quite interesting. Let us read the purport of 22nd verse as well. Who wants to read? Who can read quickly? Who's Vivo V2050?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Margi.
Yes, Margi Mataji, please go ahead. Please read.
The demigods cannot award benedictions to their devotees without the permission of the Supreme Lord. The living entity may forget that everything is the property of the Supreme Lord But the demigods do not forget. So the worship of demigods and achievements of desired results are due not to the demigods, but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by arrangement. The less intelligent living entity does not know this, and therefore he foolishly goes to the demigods for some benefit. But the pure devotee, when in need of something, prays only to the Supreme Lord. Asking for material benefit, however, is not a sign of pure devotee. A living entity goes to the demigods usually because he is mad to fulfill his lust. This happens when something undue is desired by the living entity and the Lord himself does not fulfill the desire. In the Chaitanya Charinamrit, it is said that one who worships the Supreme Lord and at the same time desires material enjoyment is contradictory in his desires. Devotional service to the Supreme Lord and the worship of a demigod cannot be on the same platform because worship of a demigod is material and devotional service to the Supreme Lord is completely spiritual. For the living entity who desires to return to Godhead, material desires are impediments. A pure devotee of the Lord is therefore not awarded the material benefits desired by less intelligent living entities, who therefore prefer to worship demigods of the material world rather than engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord.
Yeah, thank you, Maharaj. So
Hare
here,
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Very important things are mentioned by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. First of all, he mentions that even though the devata worshipper, the devotee, that devotee has forgotten that from where the benefits are coming from, but the devata doesn't forget it because they know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and they are also worshipping the Supreme Lord, and everything that they have is also coming from the Supreme Lord. So they don't forget it. Then the next important thing which is mentioned is a living entity goes to demigod for fulfilling their desires because they have gone mad with the desire that they have. And when you go mad with the desire, you want that desire to be fulfilled immediately. I want it now. Krishna also fulfills the desire. Like when you go to Krishna with a material desire, he also fulfills the desire. For example, in the verse that we saw, 7.16, that artha artharthi, artharthi as well, and artha, which is the distressed person, and the desirer of wealth, both also can go to the Supreme Lord for fulfilling their desire. Just like Dhruva Maharaj went, Gajendra went for asking for that desire to be fulfilled. But the difference is that Krishna, it is mentioned here that this happens when something undue is desired by the living entity and the Lord himself does not fulfill the desire. So there are two possibilities. One, that you are asking for something which is not proper for you, like a child asking for a cigarette. Now, the father is not going to give, no matter how much you ask for it. So that is why the father is not going to give that. But the devata may actually give because if it is like a give and take, it is provided in a way that if you do this, then you will get this particular benefit. So that way, even if it is not good for you, you will be provided that. The second thing is that even if you are, it is okay for you or you are qualified to get it, Krishna doesn't directly give. Krishna gives, but he first purifies your material desire. He actually purifies your heart so that this material desire doesn't remain in your heart anymore, which is good result. But because we are so stubborn and our heart is so full of material desires, it takes some time for him to purify our heart. And then he gives, just like he gave to Dhruva Maharaj. He had the material desire, but his desire was purified. And then he he fulfilled his material desire. But then afterwards, he became like a pure devotee, Dhruva Maharaj. So it is a better result than just worship a devata and get some material desire fulfilled. like Bhasmasur. Bhasmasur worshipped Lord Shiva, and he was actually doing very, very difficult austerity. He was actually cutting his flesh and offering it um, into the fire sacrifice that he was doing. Finally, Lord Shiva came. Hey, why you are doing all of these things? What do you want? He says, I want a benediction by which I want to, like, whoever head I keep my hand, he will turn into ashes. Now, is this something that you should ask? But he asked for it. He wanted that he wants to keep hand in somebody's head, on somebody's head, and they should turn into ashes. Now, anyone keeps the hand on the head is generally for blessing, isn't it? So this is for actually giving some blessing. But this guy wanted a blessing, that the Asura wanted a blessing of that I want to turn you into ashes. So Lord Shiva gave that blessing. But is his desire now removed? This material desire has been purified? No. In fact, it became worse. He wanted to try that on Lord Shiva himself. He wanted to keep the hand on Lord Shiva's head just to see if it works or not. And then Lord Shri Krishna came and then saved Lord Shiva in that situation. So this is how the desires are not getting purified if you are worshipping the devata. But if you worship the Supreme Lord, then your desires get purified, and then the desires are fulfilled for you. So this is an important difference, and that is why sometimes it may take a little longer if you worship the Supreme Lord, but the benefit that you get is much, much better. It is an eternal benefit that you get if you worship the Supreme Lord. It is, I was listening to someone, I don't remember, long time ago, and the lecture was on this verse, and the Prabhuji was mentioning that it is like going to engineering college, and you have two options. In one engineering college, you go and you do a degree in 3 years possibly, but that degree will only last for 3 years after you have received the degree, and after that it vanishes. But the other engineering college, you take 4 years to complete your degree, and then it remains lifelong. So which place you will go? It is like that. So at one place, you get a degree which will last only for 3 years, and then after that, the degree is no longer. You cannot claim that you have become an engineer after 3 years. But here, like in another college, you get a lifelong degree. Of course, you will have to choose a place where you get an eternal benefit, even if it takes little longer. So that is how there is this difference between the two. Sudharma Mataji, you have a question or a comment?
I have a question, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, you gave the example of like where the child is asking for cigarette and parents wouldn't give any, something bad if the child is asking. So in this case, same if we take like Krishna is our father. So if our desires is not correct, then it should not be granted at all. Why would he let like the demigods sanction it?
Yeah, so that is the difference, Mataji, right? So that is how it works out, that in the Vedas, so this like child asking for a cigarette is an extreme example that we talk about, right? But generally, if you are very, very materially attached, and on top of that, you are asking for something material, then your material desires are going to reduce or increase?
Increase.
Increase only, right? So that is bad for you. But the scriptures give you a particular way of worshipping, that if you actually worship a particular devata, then you will be receiving, like if you follow a proper process, then you will be given a particular result. And that has to be true because Krishna has given that process. So this exchange is going to, if it is done properly, if you do your part, the devata are bound. It is like a contract. They are bound to give you that. So it is like that. So even if you are materially attached, if you ask for something material, you will be getting that material desires fulfilled, which will actually keep you entangled like that. But whereas Krishna will say, "Arey, you are already materially entangled, but you have come to me. Good thing. You have done this one good thing that you have come to me, and now you are asking me another material thing. Okay, fine. I will take care of you because now you are my child. You have taken the right path of coming to me. You have turned towards me. I will purify your material desire. I will use the vacuum cleaner from the heart to remove your material desires. And okay, you wanted this, right? People should not say that if you go to Krishna, you don't get it. I will give it to you as well. But once you are purified, and that way, it is good to go to Krishna.
Thank you, Babaji.
Okay, so let's go to the next verse. We are on 23. Antavattu phalam tesham tadbhavatya alpamedhasam devan devayajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. Who wants to read the translation for this? Yes, Mahindra Prabhuji. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. So here two things are mentioned. That we have talked about this Alpamedasam, Ritatjnana, that part we have talked about. So I'm not going to touch that again. But why they are Alpamedasam is emphasized here in this verse by Krishna. He's saying that their fruits are limited and temporary. Even if they get something, their fruits are limited. It is finite. And why that is finite? Because the Devata themselves are finite. They are not infinite as the Supreme Lord. We are Anu. Anu means we are finite, we are very small. And Krishna is Vibhu. Vibhu means he is infinite. And the other Devatas also, even though they are more advanced than us, they are also finite. And that is why their results are also finite. They are also temporary. That's why their results are also temporary. And that is why they are called Alpamedasam. And then in the next part of the verse, Krishna explains this another misconception that many people have. You may have heard that people saying that whatever way that you worship, you finally go to Krishna. That you worship this devata, that devata, or that devata, finally you will go to Vaikuntha. So Krishna says, no, that is not going to happen. And he actually confirms that again in the 9th chapter as well. The 7th and 9th chapter are very, very similar. They go in like in the same way. There as well Krishna mentions, but here as well Krishna is mentioning. What is he saying? That those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods. But my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. So if you worship the devata and you worship the Supreme Lord, the result is not same. If you worship the devata, the result is temporary and limited. You go to the demigods' planets because they and their planets are also temporary and limited. You will get the temporary and limited result. But if you worship me, Krishna says, then you will come to my planet, which is eternal. And that is why you get the eternal result. And that is unlimited result. It is not limited, it is not temporary, it is unlimited and eternal result that you can get from my worship. So, are there any questions or comments? I think this is where this section ends. So, it is mentioned, less intelligent as the fruits are limited and temporary, and they goes to the planet of Devata. So what can we practically learn from this? So be intelligent and worship Lord Shri Krishna. Simple thing. We have to be intelligent. Krishna, it is mentioned that those who are worshipping the Devatas are Hritatjnana, Alpamedasam, they do worship Avidhi Purvakam. So we should be intelligent and we should worship Shri Krishna. Don't be less intelligent and worship other devatas who are giving temporary results and keeping you in this material world. You will keep going in this cycle of birth, old age, death, and disease. So we want to actually now rise above this. We are not interested in the material benefits. We want to actually focus on the spiritual benefits. And that is why we should now worship Lord Shri Krishna. Okay, let's move on to the next verse. Verse number 24. Now in this verse number 24, Lord Shri Krishna is explaining another kind of worshipper who doesn't worship the personal form of the Supreme Lord directly. He's not worshipping Krishna as Bhagwan. This person is not even worshipping devata, but this person is worshipping the impersonal nature, like Brahman. So what is the what does Krishna say about this person? 24 and 25 talks about that. Avyaktam vyaktimapannam manyate mama buddhayaha param bhavamajananto mama vyaya manuttamam. Yes, Vidhi Mataji. And then Raghavendra Prabhuji, you can read the next one.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and unseen.
You're reading the next one, Mataji. We are talking about 24.
Sorry, Prabhuji. Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So here, what is mentioned is Mam abuddhaya. So the first line of the verse it says Avyaktam vyaktimapannam manyate mama abuddhaya. Earlier it was mentioned alpamedasa, little intelligent. Abuddhaya means no intelligence. So it is even worse than the devata worshipper. So those who are worshipping to Brahman, they are referred to as unintelligent. And what else is mentioned? That they think that Krishna was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality under the influence of Maya. So when Krishna appears as Krishna or Lord Ram or even Narsimadev or Varahadev, Kuruma, Matsya or all of that various different forms Krishna appears, their view is that Krishna is originally impersonal Brahman, and then when he gets covered with Maya, then he appears in various different forms. So they think that Krishna's form, Rama's form, they are like covered with, influenced by Maya, influenced by modes. And Krishna has already mentioned in the 4th chapter, 9th verse. What did he mention? Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. So Janma karma cha me divyam. So Krishna has said that Janma, my appearance and activities are not ordinary, they are transcendental. And very few know about this. And those who know, they will come back to me. And these people, especially the impersonalist, they are thinking that Krishna is covered, like Krishna's form is covered by Maya. It is made of Maya. But Krishna has said that my appearance is transcendental. There is no difference. Like we have this body, which is material, and inside that there is spiritual soul. But for Krishna, inside out, he is spiritual. There is no material body involved with Krishna. So once the person who understands that, he gets liberated. He goes back to Krishna's abode. But otherwise, these people, it is mentioned that they are abuddhaya. What is the result that these people get? So who are worshipping Krishna as they consider that Krishna is impersonal, and then he gets covered with Maya. These people, what result do they get? Which is explained in verse number 25. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritah mudho yam nabhijanati loko mamajam avyayam. Yes, Raghavendra Prabhu. Yeah.
Krishna Prabhu, I'm never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered with my internal potency. and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Can you also continue and read the first paragraph of that purport, Prabhuji?
Sure, Prabhu. It may be argued that since Krishna was visible to everyone when he was present on this earth, how can it be said that he is not manifest to everyone? But actually, he was not manifest to everyone. When Krishna was present, there was only a few people who could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the assembly of Kurus, when Shishupala spoke against Krishna's being elected president of the assembly, Bhishma supported him and proclaimed him to be the supreme god. Similarly, the Pandavas and few others knew that he was the supreme, but not everyone. He was not revealed to the non-devotees and the common man. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, but for his pure devotees, all men consider him to be like themselves. Him to be like themselves. He was manifest only to his devotees as the reservoir of all pleasure, but to others, to unintelligent non-devotees, he was covered by his internal potency.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, Srila Prabhupada is very nicely explaining that even when he was present and he was showing the same form to various different people, some people could recognize him and some people couldn't recognize him. How that was happening is mentioned in this verse. That for foolish and unintelligent, what he does, I cover them with my internal potency. So he cover them like a curtain. So some people the curtain is removed, some people the curtain is there, so you cannot recognize Krishna. So the devotees, the curtain is removed. If you are non-devotee, the curtain is put. So this is what the choice that we have. Either we become a devotee and see Krishna and understand him, or we remain a non-devotee and Krishna will keep a curtain and then we will not be able to recognize him. And it is not that the curtain is put on Krishna's eyes, the curtain is put on our eyes. Krishna can see everything, and that is explained in the next verse. Krishna can keep seeing everything. It is just that we get covered by this curtain, and that is why we are not able to recognize Krishna. So it is mentioned that we are covered by Maya, hence cannot understand the true nature of the Lord. So what can we learn? So it is that the thinking that Krishna's personality is temporary is very unintelligent. We have to understand that Krishna's appearance and activities are transcendental, as mentioned in the 4th chapter. We have already seen that there. So let us move on to the next verse. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kaschana. Who wants to read? Yes, Gunjan Mataji, please go ahead.
O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So here in this 26th verse, what is mentioned? That it is just that our eyes are covered, and that is why Krishna is not visible. But Krishna actually knows everything. He knows the past, he knows the present, and he also knows the future. So that is how he can see everything. So that is the important part that we should understand, that Krishna knows everything. So now from 27th verse onward, 27 to 30 is a different section it is starting. And it is explaining us like a very wonderful flow. And the last two verses, 29th and 30th verse, it creates the reason why this next chapter is spoken. And there is a connection there. So let us read these 4 verses and then we will understand them. Okay, verse number 27. Ichha dvesha samuthena dvandva mohena bharata sarvabhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. Who wants to read? Yes, Uma Mataji, please.
Ocean of Bharata, O conqueror of the foe, all the living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arising from the desire and hate.
Thank you, Mataji. So everyone, it's quite interesting. Everyone is born in delusion. So we all are born into delusion, which is true. And that is why when we start our prayers, our sessions, we say Om Adnyana Tivrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Adnyana Tivrandasya. We are born in the Timira. Timira means darkness of what? Adnyana. So we are born in the darkness of ignorance. That is what Krishna is also saying. All living entities are born into delusion. We are born into delusion. And bewildered by dualities arising from desire and hate. So what is that illusion? It is a duality, happiness, distress, this desire and hate, raga, dvesha. Now, this dvesha is mentioned, and earlier as well, it was previous verse chapters as well. Krishna talked about this duality and especially dvesha. See, dvesha is quite interesting thing, that desire, we can sometimes leave them aside. But hate, like if our mind has hate, dvesha for someone, it is very, very difficult to keep that aside. It will keep burning in our head. It will be always, we will be thinking, why he did like that? Why he did like that? Why she did like that? It will be just continuing in our head continuously. So raga, which is attachment, can be left aside for a little while. But dvesha, it just captures our mind like anything. So both raga and dvesha are problematic. Why that is problematic? Because Krishna consciousness means, Krishna says, Mai arpita mano buddhir. Mana and buddhi needs to be applied on Krishna. Krishna says, Man mana bhava mad bhakto. The mind has to be applied on Krishna. So the process of Krishna consciousness is to apply our mind or engage our mind in Krishna's service. But raga and dvesha, what it does, it takes our mind and puts into some other topic. And that is why this raga and dvesha are problematic, because it actually captures our mind. And when we are into attachment, raga for something material or dvesha for somebody or something, then we will not be able to engage our mind in Krishna's service. And that is why raga dvesha is not good for us. And this is the delusion that we are into always, that we are desiring something or we are hating something. And in that raga dvesha, then we are not able to do anything good and we cannot progress. So this is the flow that is mentioned here. So this verse is talking about that we are born in delusion of duality, of desire and hate. What happens is, oh, that is the next verse. Let's go to the next verse. Verse number 28. Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam drudhavrataha. Who wants to read? Someone who hasn't read it yet? Yes, Kalakali Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated are freed from the dualities of delusion and they engage themselves in my service with determination.
Thank you, Mataji. So this verse is talking about some qualification for starting the devotional service. So three things are mentioned. That this person has acted piously in this and previous life. So pious activities in previous life and this life. And thus, they have ceased to act in this duality of desire and hate. In the previous verse was talking about raga dvesha. So because this person has worked, done quite a lot of pious activities in previous lives and this life, then they are free from the sinful actions. So that was the second thing that is mentioned. So sinful actions are completely eradicated for this person. And then they have achieved this freedom from dualities of delusion. Such a person is able to engage in Lord's service with determination. What happens after that? Well, the person is now engaging in Krishna's service. Jara marana mokshaya mamashritya yatanti ye te brahma tadvidum krusnam adhyatmam karma chakhilam. Who wants to read? Yes, Pamindra Prabhuji. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Intelligent persons who are enduring for the liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about the transcendental activities.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. So here, intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation. So these people are endeavoring, it is mentioned that they are endeavoring for liberation. So this is like the Artha, Artharthi, and Jigyasu. So these three people were mentioning in 7.16 who are having some material desire. Now this is the fourth kind of person who has material desire. So there, Artha, Artharthi, Jigyasu, and Jnani was mentioned, but the only first three were having material desires. The fourth one, Jnani, did not have material desire. But here, this verse is talking about the fourth kind of person who has some material desire. And what is that material desire? I want to get liberated. That is also material desire. Because liberation, you are asking because you are thinking that, oh, I'm suffering here. I will go to the spiritual world, and then there will be no suffering for me. So that means the me is there, and you are thinking that I will not be suffering. I will be enjoying. That's why I don't want to stay here. I want to go there. So this person is also having some material desire. So it is moksha kama. So sarva kama was mentioned in that verse, but here it is moksha kama is mentioned. But this intelligent person who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. But the good thing that they have done is they are engaging themselves in Krishna's service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. So after worshipping, what happens is they become Brahman. Brahman means they become purified over a period of time. It is Brahman is a spiritual platform, and this person rises themselves from the material platform to the spiritual platform, and that is why it is mentioned that they also become Brahman. Let us look at the last verse.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. One question,
Yes.
here, Brahman, is it referred to the light of the God, or one of the three forms, or here is it referred as Brahman as the learned person?
No, Brahman. Brahman is that the spiritual platform, which is the light platform that we talk about. So it is when we talk about Krishna's light, and that is the Brahman effulgence. But here it is talked about the quality of that Brahman effulgence, which is the spiritual quality, right? So similarly, they also become spiritual, and that is why they come to the level of Brahman, the platform Brahman. So it is not the Brahman who is a learned person here. Actually, here in Srila Prabhupada's, he used this transliteration where there are these lines on top. Somewhere you have, when you see the English, you will see that there is one line on the top. And that shows that it is a or a. So if it was mentioned Brahman, and that A had a line on top, that means it is Brahman. So that is a different pronunciation and different meaning as compared to Brahman, different pronunciation, different meaning. Okay. So let's go to the last verse and then, then we will see further. Sadi bhutadi daivam ma sadhiyajnam chaye viduhu prayana kale pichama te vidur yukta chetasaha. Yes, Gita Jayanti Mataji. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Mataji. So they become Brahman, and then what happens? They know Krishna in full and can remember him at the time of death. And then if a person remembers Krishna at the time of death, then the person goes back to Krishna's abode. But the main important thing in this flow is this person who is born in delusion of duality, of desire and hate, and then we are saying that if he does pious in this life and the next life and whatever, then he actually makes a difference. But where, like, how will that change? That the person is in this delusion of duality of desire and hate, and suddenly he starts doing pious activities. It's not possible, right? So it becomes possible from hearing. And that is why Krishna started this chapter with Tat Shrunu. Krishna has mentioned that here, Arjuna, if you hear from the right source, then once the person who is born in this delusion can make progress. And that is what we actually also say in that mantra that we chant in the beginning, the prayer that we chant, that Om Ajnana Timirandasya, that we are born in this delusion of and the illusion of ignorance. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalaka Chakshurunitamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So Guru will open our eyes and he will put the knowledge, he will give us the knowledge, and that is how we will remove this illusion of the darkness of ignorance that is there, that can be removed. So hearing from the right source is very, very important, and that can actually change everything. And we will, from the delusion of duality of desire and hate, finally we can come to the stage of knowing Krishna in full, and then we can remember Krishna at the time of death. And interestingly, you may not have noticed, but Arjuna noticed that in these two verses, 29 and 30, Krishna talks about different terms. And then Arjuna picks those terms. There are 7 different things that Krishna has mentioned. In the 29th verse, Krishna talked about Brahman, then he talked about Adhyatma, and then he talked about Karma. So Karma, Adhyatma, and Brahma. And in the 30th verse, he talked about Adi Bhuta, Adi Daiva, and Adi Yajna, and then also talked about Prayana Kalepi at the time of death, if you will remember me. So these 7 things that he mentioned in the last 2 verses, and in just passing, he just mentioned them. But Arjuna is very, very sharp. He's saying he will ask those questions. What are these 7 terms? Please explain to me. And that is how chapter 8 starts. But we will see that next time. So just to briefly, if you want to summarize this entire chapter, verse 7, the chapter 7, then we can see this, that it is talking about knowledge of the Absolute. Who is the Absolute? It is Krishna. But of course, Krishna is there and he is also having energies, which then his energies are mentioned in this chapter, which is living entity and material nature. Now, material nature has been explained that it is an inferior energy, and living entity is a superior energy, because superior energy, Atma, when it is there in the material, in the body, only then it moves, only then it grows. Then the material nature was explained that it is the gross elements are there, earth, water, fire, air, ether, and then there are subtle elements, mind, intelligence, and false ego. The living entity, there is an interaction between the living entity and material nature was mentioned. What is the relationship? The living entity is trying to exploit the resources as Purusha. We are trying to exploit the resources as enjoyers. But the real Purusha is not us. Who's the real Purusha? The real Purusha is Krishna. He's the enjoyer, he's the controller. He's actually the source of everything. He's the source of living entity and he's source of the material nature as well. Then it was explained how he's the essence of everything, how Krishna is essence of everything. He's then from that perspective, it was mentioned like some material nature example were taken and mentioned that he was the essence. Then he was the living entity as well. It was mentioned he's the strength of the strong, intelligence of the intelligent. From the material nature, it was mentioned that he's the fragrance of the earth. He's the light of the sun and moon. All of those things were mentioned. So he's essence of both living entity and material nature. Whatever good we see, his essence. Then it was mentioned that the material nature, Maya, is a divine energy. It is inferior energy, but it is surrendered to Krishna. The living entity is a superior energy, but not surrendered to Krishna. And that is why the living entity is not able to overcome the material nature. So there is a need to surrender. If you surrender, living entity surrenders to Krishna, then it can cross beyond the material nature. But such people are very rare. The living entities who have surrendered to Krishna, they are very, very rare. But it is possible that we can surrender to Krishna by hearing about Krishna. There are 4 types of people who don't surrender, and there are 4 types of people who surrender. And there are some people who surrender to others, which is what is explained. So in this one slide, you can see that the entire chapter 6 is covered, which is the knowledge of the absolute. And we can see that how Krishna is the supreme person. All of us are his energies, and there is some interaction which happens between living entity and material nature, living entity and Krishna, material nature and Krishna, and there are different results that we get out of that interaction. So that is how we have completed this chapter 7, and from next week we will look at chapter 8. Hare Krishna. Are there any comments or questions or reflections or anything that you
Beautiful
want?
summary, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare
You have
Krishna.
put so much effort. Even at the last slide blows me out. It gave such a wonderful summary. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes, Vidhi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So in the 29th verse purport, it says about Aham Brahmasmi. So before coming to Krishna consciousness, I read a book about Aham Brahmasmi, and their philosophy was like everything is same and everything will merge into Brahman. So a body has a soul, and if another person has a soul, so we both are same. But our philosophy is based on we all are individual souls and we all are different. So that is contradictory, right, Prabhuji?
Yes, that is correct. And that is why it is mentioned that Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi, what it means is that we are in quality same as the Supreme Lord. And when we purify ourselves, then we come to the stage of we are Sat, we are eternal, we are Chit, which is full of knowledge, and we are Ananda, full of bliss. And Brahman is also, and the Supreme Lord is also Satchidananda. So when we come to that level of, we purify ourselves and come to the Satchidananda level platform, then it is mentioned that we also come to the level of Brahman. So that is when we can actually say that Aham Brahmasmi. Currently I'm not Brahmasmi. We are bodies. Even though theoretically we have understood that we are soul, but still our activities are mainly from the conception that we are this body. Our activities are focused on the body. When we come to the level where we have not only theoretically understood that we are spirit soul, but our actions also show that we are spirit soul, then we would have done some purification and then we will come to that level. But mainly, even after coming to that platform of Brahman, it is not that we lose our individuality. We remain individual. And that is how we can serve the Supreme Lord in the spiritual world. So that is the difference between this impersonal philosophy and the personal philosophy of Bhagwan.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Are there any other questions, comments, reflections? Nothing? Okay, Parminder Prabhuji.
We just one like the most important thing I learned about this one was just surrender unto the Krishna. And even though initially you might do it for material gains, but eventually it will lead to spiritual progress.
Absolutely. Very good. That is the most important part, Paminder Prabhuji. Whatever we want, akama, sarva kama, moksha kama udaradhi, tivreda bhakti yogena, yajeta purushaparam. So whether we want akama means we do not have any material desire. Sarva kama, we have lots of material desires, or moksha kama, we have desire for liberation. In any case, what we should do? We should surrender to the Supreme Lord. And how we should do the bhakti? Tivrena bhakti yogena. Intense bhakti we should do, and that way we will reach to the goal of developing love for Krishna. Yes, Vidhi Mataji, you have some further comment?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Just a reflection from today's session that desiring liberation is also material desire. So, yeah.
Yes, very good. Okay, any other reflections, comments? Okay, if nothing else, then we will stop here. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.